What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Bit Unraveled comedy podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hansinger, and let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of A Bit Unraveled. Happy to have you back for another week. Super excited for this guest this week. She is a good friend of mine who I know through improv here in LA. We've been on the same team for many, many years now. She's also a successful working actress with recurring roles on the Mindy project and the guest book and plenty of other roles along with it, as well as a writer and independent creator. So happy to have this guest on. Please welcome to the podcast, Tipper Newton.
Hi.
Why, hello.
Hi, Ryan.
How are you?
Good. I mean,
Good.
Fine.
Fine.
How are you?
I'm good. You look great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
This is so great. You too. We both look great. We're both good.
We're zooming. We're having it's weird to connect this way these days, but that's where we're at.
I know. It almost looks like the picture behind you is a fake background, but it's not. It's because it's just on the wall.
Yeah. No, it's just it's real. That is solid IKEA decoration.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
That is something we went and bought from IKEA and was like, that looks awesome. It'll look great on the wall, and got it to the car and it wouldn't quite fit in the car. So we had to stick like one corner out of each window to try to get it home. And
wait, how big is that thing?
It's like just wider than like a small Chevy Cruze, if that puts.
Wow.
So like, I don't know.
I'm not familiar with the size of the Cruze, but
it's not quite in inches. That's how I measure things. I measure things in trunk space, and yeah.
But it's great. You got it home.
We got it home though.
Most important thing.
We didn't have to put it on the roof. We made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good. Well, yeah, it's great to see you. We haven't seen each other in person in probably 2 or 3 years now.
I know. Oh yeah, because
crazy.
You was the last time I saw you at your like going away party?
I think so. Because we were gonna do a show like that first week I got back, but I think most, like, about half of us were just tied up in other things. I think you and Chris might have been like, you guys, have a lot going on. So you end up missing that one and thinking, hey, yeah, we'll see it's the next one. Yeah. And then the pandemic's hit. So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah. I guess it has been a couple of years. Yeah. It just seems like yesterday.
It does though. It doesn't feel like that long at all, which is nice. Because we had moved away for 2 years.
Yeah.
And everybody, when we come back, is just like, it feels like we weren't gone much at all, which is nice to be able to come back and kind of get back into a rhythm of things and, feel like we didn't miss a whole lot. So that's cool. But you've had a ton going on, which is nice. For those listening and stuff, Tipper and I know each other from our improv group, Cat Bath. We met through UCB classes. I was talking with Chris about this too. I think it was the second level that we met.
Yeah, I can't remember. I almost feel like I think I knew Chad from the first level. Like maybe me and Chad were in the same class, or maybe we all met the second. I can't remember.
I don't know, because I thought I met Chad in the first one. So maybe.
Oh.
Maybe you, me, and.
Maybe not.
I don't know. But it was early on. That was literally like within the first couple months of me moving to LA.
Yeah. Was this like 10 years ago or something?
It was over 10 years. It was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Which I moved. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm curious as what your timeline was, because I moved here in, I think, August or September 2009 from Virginia. And then now, had you been out here long before?
No, I've lived here 12 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So
about
2008, I guess. So maybe it was like 11 years ago we did the class. I don't think I did the classes right when I moved here, but like pretty soon. So
yeah. And now if you're from Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm from Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah.
And cool. And then I saw you went to school in Chicago for film, correct?
Yeah. So, yeah, I went to college in Chicago and, was there for 4 years.
Yeah. Was like, if now because you went for film, was that like, what side of things did you see yourself on when you started that path? Were you more always geared towards being in front of the camera, or were you kind of trying to get to know all sides and kind of take on the independent creator side of things?
Um, it was always kind of both. I mean,
Yeah.
because I just love movies and everything. So, um, I always, wanted to write and make stuff and also act.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. And so for me, it was, I guess, weirdly, I didn't ever think about like, oh, I'm going to go to school and study acting. I was always thinking about studying film,
Yeah.
going, finding a place for that. Yeah.
Cool. That's super cool. I
Yeah.
know I ended up going to school and stumbling into comedy. I chose my college, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, because they had a sketch comedy group. And then that's the only reason I didn't know why I was going to school. I didn't know what degree I was chasing. I ended up doing communications, and then I was like, oh, they have a sketch comedy group. I will go here. and um, and then found myself like getting interested in the film side of things through that, because we started recording digital sketches and digital shorts. So I kind of found my way into the tech side of things that way. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's nice to be well rounded though, and kind of know both sides of things.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, I did like plays in high school and stuff. And then when I went to college, I didn't I didn't even never think about trying out for the plays in college or doing any of that at all. Um, and I sort of made friends. In Chicago, it's smaller than like a place like LA where there's only like, you know, uh, maybe 4 movie theaters that if you're like a movie buff or whatever, you go and you see the same people over and over again.
Right.
And so I actually ended up making a like friends that way who you would just like see them at the movies and be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I met this guy Joe Swanberg, who's like a successful filmmaker now.
Yeah.
And he's from Chicago, and I met him going to the movies, and I knew that he had like a film play at South by Southwest. And one time he was just like, "Oh, hey, I'm making a new movie. Do you want to be in it?" And I was like, "Sure, okay." Um, and so then I ended up with that movie he made. We went to a bunch of festivals, and I got to meet like a ton of different people who I'm still friends with now.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of like the only acting sort of thing I did in college. Um,
That's not a bad only acting thing you did in college. I just did
no,
this one
no.
thing, went to a ton of festivals, and what was
um,
like the biggest festival that one went to? I
oh,
remember, I know it was a while
probably
back.
I think at the time it would have been South by Southwest, which
Yeah,
I think is
it's a big festival.
it is. I think it's a lot different now. I haven't been there in a while, but the last time I
Well,
went
nobody
was
has.
yeah,
I think they just
right.
canceled it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but at the time it was still big, but a
Yeah.
lot smaller. And I
Mhm.
went like a few years ago, and I was like, oh, whoa, this is way different. Just the scope of things, is they have all this like all the tech side of things now, which I don't think they
Yeah.
had at the time. At the time, but yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
where I was going with that,
Super. Oh,
but
that's super
yeah,
cool.
that was just kind of like the. It was funny because when I was in school in the film classes, they were kind of really focused on being like, okay, you need all these crew people, you need all this stuff to like make films and blah blah blah. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's not true. I have all these people I just met at festivals who literally like were just picking up a camera and doing it.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm glad that I had that sort of like perspective on that, because everybody at school was like saying, this is how you do it. You need a big truck with a bunch of gear. And I'm
Yeah,
like, not really. I'm seeing all these other people make movies without that.
totally. And it's more and more like even over like the last 10 years as everything's
Mm-hmm.
going digital and like you can shoot so much on your own and not need so many people. Um, that's
Yeah.
cool. And speaking of festivals, I noticed you also had you were in Sundance like 2 years ago, right? For crude
Oh,
oil.
yeah. I acted in a movie
That
that showed there, and that was really
yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, you've had like some awesome success lately, and it's super exciting to see. And that's just like starting off with festivals and stuff. And then uh then that's not even mentioning your like recurring roles on Mindy project, which is awesome. And then recurring on the guest book and 911 now and stuff. Like you've had all kinds of stuff these last few years, and it's been awesome to kind of catch up and watch some of this stuff. Um, and yeah, I was talking a little bit to Chris on about the Mindy project and stuff because I had him on a few weeks back, which was cool. But I guess like you kind of caught. He was saying you caught Mindy's eyes pretty early, like almost independently of the traditional like auditioning and stuff. It sounds like, is that right?
Um, well, actually, no, it was the first season they were making that show,
Yeah.
and I just went in for an audition for it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Before the
Cool.
show was even on air, it was, they were casting the pilot or whatever. And
Yeah.
I got down to, it was between me and two other people for a part on the show.
Right.
Um, and so it was the first time I had to do like the whole like testing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I ended up not getting it. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because yeah, I didn't get it. And then what? The show was on, I can't remember, was it 7 seasons total? So I think Chris maybe had joined writing them during the third or fourth season. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And and then yeah, a part ended up showing up. Um, that they were like, oh yeah, Tipper could do this, and that was, I guess, the sixth season, and I was on the sixth and seventh. I can't remember what was the last.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'm thinking, I want to say
I
it was the
should
seventh.
know. I was on it.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I just looked at it, but now I'm
Yeah.
can't remember. It might have been season, yeah, 7, and then I think it was season 7, and I watched episode 10 most recently, uh, which was when you had to come and deliver the bad news and stuff. But it's so fun to watch some of your stuff because
Thanks.
you're so you in your work, which is cool. Um, but it's a funny story to like that it came back around and like to miss that first thing and then be like,
Yeah.
oh man, I didn't get it. And then it's crazy how that stuff comes back around though. You get on the radar and they're like, all right, we liked her. We want to get her back in.
Yeah, it was definitely um great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
it's awesome. Yeah.
it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is fun. Like you're very much yourself on screen, which is always cool to watch different people because there are people who uh, I don't know, you put on more of a mask or try to be this certain thing, and it's fun to see what I know as a Tipper from like us doing improv and stuff, and seeing that translate to like on screen stuff, which is always fun. Um, and it's neat to watch, especially like across different types of roles. Like you still, I was like, oh, it's still Tipper. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's neat to see. And it's interesting because like I feel like we've been talking a lot. I've been talking with some other actors and stuff recently about like people finding niches and stuff like that, and you got to fit into a niche and this and that. And I was wondering like where your thoughts were on that kind of thing because I almost feel like you don't niche yourself.
Um yeah, I think like I've I mean, that's a good question because I don't know. I guess I kind of tried to avoid it, or
Yeah.
maybe like um I've tried to like force myself into maybe like a different niche than maybe you would normally put me in. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Um
Was that ever a conversation though you've had with reps and stuff along the way of like, hey, we see you as this. Do you want to and ever like being try to push into a niche? Because like just for example, for the people who don't know, like I mean, you played a receptionist on the Mindy Project. You played the badass roller girl. You played you played the rock star Roxy Glass, and then like the lazy stripper and like the guest book who's like just on the couch napping half the time. No, but like I feel like that's a pretty decent range of character where no one's like, yeah, you're just the receptionist person, you know what I mean? Or you're um but yeah, I didn't know. Was that like ever a conversation where people initially tried to get you into that stuff and then you break out, or was that kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna be me and we'll figure out where we fit in?
um no, I guess there was never really a conversation. I think it was one of those things where it's like uh I think they understood like I mean, I think I do have like a couple different types that I like to play or
Mhm.
that I feel like I'm stronger at, and I think my reps or whatever are on the same page.
Mhm.
So um I think I always kind of see like, oh, I can play sort of that like uh little bit like naive quirky type, which is like um the stripper or the receptionist. And then I also really like doing the sort of more like spunky, a little bit tough type, which is
Mhm.
like, the Roxy Glass or the roller derby person or that sort of thing.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think my agents and stuff kind of know what I like and what I fit into. So I will get like a lot of similar roles to audition for in that way. But I'm always excited about those ones. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll get stuff that'll be like way different, like this suburban mom or something,
You're
and then
right.
which is not does not come as like natural to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, how do I make this me? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I feel like you do a great job of that because it would be easy to get some of these roles and like you have such a great like big personality and quirky personality and it's cool to watch like the stuff you do and even when it it could be something of more serious character or more grounded character if you will like you don't lose that quirkiness which I think is cool because
Oh,
I think there's a
thanks.
lot of times uh you can be there are times that I think people try to teach you out of that stuff um and it's always interesting and I think that's something I've been looking at of always like okay how do I just keep being myself and not trying to be like this what they expect to be you know what I mean
Yeah.
because it's easy to get lost in that sometimes.
Yeah, I think I definitely have had parts where I got cast one thing specifically. I went in not really feeling like I knew what to do with it, and I was like, well, I'm just going to be me. And
Yeah.
I got cast, and I was like, oh, they must have liked that I did it different than maybe what was on the page or how they imagined it.
Yeah.
But then when I got to set, um, the director was like, yeah, I don't really like what you're doing. They
Hmm.
didn't say those words, but that was,
Sure.
and I
Tipper, come
really,
here, come here, stop what you're doing.
I don't
No,
like
no,
you.
I don't
Yeah.
like you. I didn't pick you first off. Change it. No, I'm just kidding.
It really was a situation where I wanted to be like, did you see that audition? Um, because it seemed like they wanted me to do something like so different than what
Mm,
I
mhm.
thought they had casted me for. And so
That's
I
interesting, yeah.
felt like I was really disappointed because, I think as an actor and, you only get so many parts every so often, and you always want to like feel good about what you're doing and feel proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for it to be something where you just feel like, oh, I really felt like, I didn't do what I wanted. I don't think I ever gave them what they wanted. And so
Right.
it
Yeah.
felt sort of like this disappointment.
Oh, I got
Um,
that. Yeah. That's interesting. Do you have do you have a favorite role you've played so far?
I mean, I do. I guess I have a couple. I mean, I really liked the stripper role from the guest book.
Yeah.
Um, it was a lot of fun, and I got to do like a little bit of like physical comedy,
Mm-hmm.
which I really enjoyed. And that was also kind of like the first time that I went into audition with the idea of the character,
Mm-hmm.
and like having somebody be like, "Oh, you got the part." I could kind of like go in with a lot of confidence because I already knew they knew what I was going to do, and I had
Mm-hmm.
already made like a specific choice of how this character was going to be, and I could just do it, you know?
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And kind of like take that ownership over it. That's a fun show too, because I feel like you're one of the few like static casts that's not rotating. And it's like I mean, the guests are coming in and it's like
Hmm.
huge names every time. Like it's brand new, big name people coming on episode to episode, but you're kind of one of the static characters that as a constant in that little town, which is kind
Yeah,
of
it was cool because I think because of that, because they had like guest stars every week, and that's where they could get like their name person from. That the
mm-hmm,
reoccurring roles he could cast whoever he wanted.
mm-hmm,
So like all of us that were not everybody. I mean, Eddie Steeples is in that show, and he's like been around forever.
mm-hmm.
But everybody else was like, like me. Like nobody knows who we are, and we're getting to do this stuff. Um, oh, but I was gonna say, oh, and then I did really love um, the Roxy Glass character that was on Agents of
Yeah,
Shield.
yeah,
To me, that was like my dream role where I get to play a rock and roller. It's set in like the 80s, and we're fighting killer robots. And I'm like, oh my
yeah.
God, like I would want to do that forever if I could.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because you have a band, right? You started a
Yeah.
band like several years back, and it's Color TV, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is that's cool. It's cool that, like those two worlds found a place to like mesh and come together.
Yeah. They
And then you
were,
get to play it on TV. That's awesome.
yeah, because the whole thing is they were looking for somebody who could actually play guitar for that
Yeah.
part because
Yeah.
he wanted it to look realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had to like go into the audition and like play a song and stuff, and um, which was like, yeah, I'll play shows and stuff when I with my band and everything. Um, but when it's like me in front of the camera and like the casting director there, I was like so tense, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
God.
They're like, come on, give us a riff. And you're
Yeah,
like,
and I'm like, did I do it? I messed
right.
up. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think it's great though. I always think it's interesting when people have like special talents outside of acting and stuff, and it comes into play, like like playing the guitar, or the piano, and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could pick up the piano, and it's not that easy. It's not that.
Never too late. Never
Never
too
too
late,
late.
Ryan.
Never too late. I dabbled with it. It's not. It's not going to be for me. Um, but it's neat, and I think it's also like important for as like an actor and comedians and things like that to like always push yourself and have other skills, because people are constantly like asking, all right, what else can you do? You know what like, and I think that in that particular case booked you a role, which I've seen a few times. I watched another guy from one of my classes who plays the violin, and
Mm.
that was his role. He played got cast in a lot of ways for playing the violin. Um, it also came up for you in the Mindy project, and I don't know if that was. I mean, I'm assuming that had nothing to do with you getting booked, but was that a conversation of like, hey, can you play this?
So I don't know, maybe Chris told me that I think if they cast somebody on the show, they kind of like research them and they're like, oh, what can they do? Or can we
Yeah.
incorporate something?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they already knew that, yeah, I did music, I could play the guitar or whatever. So they wrote that into the show because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we can use this.
Yeah. Which is, I'm finding out more and more. And I'm like just watching it in different shows and stuff. And,
Mhm.
and then seeing like examples like this where, yeah, you get in there and they're always like, what can you do? And, you know, we watched the Devil Show, Lucifer, and which is a fantastic show. But like he plays the piano and like he sings and it's fantastic and it's just like an awesome layer to what you can do. So it's like it's always cool when people can bring those outside talents in. And just always finding, I don't think music's going to be mine. I got to figure out something else. I feel like I'm athletic, which
Oh, yeah.
can come into things. My agent was like recently, he's like, do you do MMA? And I was like, no, but I will try.
I can learn.
I will figure it out. So I just started working out incessantly. I was like, come on, I've got to beef up. And then it never came through. So I'm just slightly more in shape than I was last week for no reason. But like, I feel like that's, if I had to bring in something, it would be athletic stuff. And at one point, Ashley had gotten me into doing gymnastics as like a side activity because she used to do
Nice.
that. And so just trying out different things of like, what other skills can I bring to the table? Because I think it's, you know, you never know when it's going to come up, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I try to get up and ski once a year just to like be like, hey, I can ski.
Keep it
You know?
fresh. Yeah.
I can ski most of the way down and then I'll roll the rest of the way.
I was in a movie where like I had to have a chainsaw a log for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And so for a long time on my resume, I put chainsaw. Cause I'm like, I did it. I can do it.
Yeah.
And then of course, like 10 years later, after never touching a chainsaw again, I was like, I gotta take that off. That's gonna get me killed.
The special skills section is always like the weirdest, fuzziest stuff where you're like, you're always stretching it. It's never quite what it is. I'm like, yeah, I can drive a jet ski. I did it like 10 years ago, you know, like once.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I could drive a boat. Like I did as a, like, I don't know. It's just like, they're years away. But it's funny. Like, I feel like you don't always expect those things to come up, but it's cool when they do.
Yeah.
And I think it's like important for a lot of people to go out and figure out a special skill. Join a band, even if it's a marching band. I don't know. Did you know how to rollerblade for your rollerblade role? Like, were you pretty proficient in rollerblading? That's a weird way to put it. Were you proficient in rollerblading?
It was actually roller skating. It's a big difference.
I guess it is. I feel like we've all been to a roller rink at some point.
No, they asked in the audition, they were like, you know, say how comfortable you are on skates. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I go to the roller skating rink maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know how I can put them on and skate around.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessary for the role. And then when I got it, they were like, hey, buy some roller skates. We'll reimburse you practice. And I was like, oh, thank God. And so then I was able to practice for like 2 weeks or something beforehand.
Right.
And then when we got there, they kind of, in the episode, most of it is the stunt double because everybody except for me and the other like girl in the scene who I had dialogue with, all the other girls were actual roller derby people.
Gotcha.
And so most of it is the stunt doubles and the actual roller derby. Mm-hmm. But they did like some cheat shots where like we're sort of on this other level of the track. Well, it's not even on the track. Mm-hmm. And so we skated a lot slower and the camera followed us. I think they used like one close up of me actually on the skates. Yeah. And everything else was a double.
Sped it up. No. Well, like speed it up in post. She's flying.
Right. And we're wearing masks because it takes place now. So it's like they had so much more opportunity to fake it than if we weren't. Because I'm like, that is not me. And it's like half of the roller skating. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. But you go roller skating on your own like once or twice a year still?
Yeah, I mean, not last year.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah, I
that's
would say
cool.
I would say at least once a year,
Yeah.
maybe twice. Um,
I
and
feel like that
now I have my own skates, so I can just
hell yeah, that you
hop
were
in whenever.
reimbursed for. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
It was like the most exciting. I'm like, I got free
I
skates.
got free skates.
Yeah,
No, you were on TV with Rob Lowe. No, I got free skates.
yeah.
Um, that's awesome. I don't think I've been roller skating in forever. That was like the thing to do in like middle school was like,
Totally birthday parties at the rink.
birthday parties all the
Yeah.
time. And you'd like go down on one knee and you'd skate like
Whoa.
one like or
I
you
didn't
just
do
you
that.
squat and you jump like this high off the ground and you were on top of the world. Oh man.
Man.
No. Okay. It wasn't. I'm not bragging, but it was. No,
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Oh man, I haven't been in a while though. That's cool. I didn't.
Got to get back out there.
I should. That would be like a fun throwback thing to do. Um, I've been ice skating since like I feel like that's a fun thing to do occasionally, but I don't even know where a roller rink is. That's fantastic.
There's a great one in Glendale called Moonlight Rollerway.
If I had to guess anywhere it would be Glendale. I don't know
There's
why.
there's some in Long Beach. There's like
Is there?
several
Okay.
options.
I
Yeah,
don't know
but
why. I
that's the
just
closest
like
one probably to us. The
yeah.
Glendale.
No, it's super cool. Yeah, I feel like I have to go now. Now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna throw back. I hope they haven't updated their playlists though. I hope it's still like
Well, they have different nights, but one night is Tuesday night or whatever is organ night, and somebody plays a live organ while you roller skate.
how interesting.
Yeah.
I never would have expected organ night.
Yeah.
of all the things, of all the nights you could do, church organ.
Yeah. It's great.
That's fantastic. Very cool, very cool. Now I'm always fascinated because I feel like we come from I would say like a comedy background. And I came from sketch and then improv and then got into stand up and this and that. And then started then focusing later on like I should do more acting classes and things like that. Do you like I'm always curious to pick other people's brains who are comedians / actors in whatever order you want to put that, but like how much do you stay in class often? Is that a thing you like do you get into a lot of acting classes or do you rely a lot on your improv chops and performing in other ways?
So when I was for a while, like when I first moved out here, probably right when I moved out here, or maybe within a year or something, I was like, okay, I want to get into some classes or whatever. So I did all the UCB stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also went to like an acting teacher who did basically like private classes. Well, it was you and you had an acting partner, you would do scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And he would also do like an audition class where he would give you an audition and you would practice auditioning.
Yeah.
And I probably did that. I probably was in his doing that class for at least like 2 or 3 years or something, as well as the UCB stuff. And then I stopped for a while, and was always thinking about getting back into it, but I haven't since then. Probably for like 6 years or something. Although it's always something I think about.
Yeah,
But yeah, for whatever reason, I just haven't. And I've definitely noticed though, like when we were doing improv classes and just like as our improv group performing all the time,
mm-hmm.
That I was much better at like improv, like in actual acting situations. Like I feel like I'm definitely like have lost some of that. And I'm like, dang, like I feel like I need to get back into that to keep like sharp.
Well, it's I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like there's no right or wrong. Obviously, like you're doing a lot right. So, I almost feel like I flipped it. If I could do it again, I would probably put more of these classes up front,
Hmm.
having, and I think I dabbled in some classes here and there, and I feel like I've really hit it the last 2 or 3 years and really like gotten into class and really, because I feel like there's such a foundation for just like breaking down scripts and stuff like that. But I think improv and staying in some of that realm also goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of you learn to play yourself really well. I think in just doing like improv and stuff, because it's just you and you get into a rhythm of like, oh, this is what I do well. This is what
Hmm.
works for me, and you're not thinking about putting on other characters so much. You're just playing yourself in different roles, which I
Hmm.
think translates really well too. Where I think I've been in some classes, some not every class is made equal. I've
Yeah.
been in some. I mean, just to be straight up, but I think there are some where like that I've had the personality taken out of my acting in acting
Oh.
classes by trying to like, no, no, it's supposed to be done this way. And I'm like, I know, but then I don't feel like I'm me anymore. Like I don't feel like I'm
Uh-huh.
my personality. I'm just putting on this character. And then, there are other classes that are great and don't do that. But that's why I say like I think it is almost nice to have done it the way you did it, in the way you had done it up top, gotten that foundation, and then
Hmm.
done the improv afterwards. Um, but it's just always, again, there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
I see people who've taken no classes ever and who are booking like crazy, and
Yeah.
just did comedy. And there are stand-ups and improvisers who've never taken an acting class in their life. And I think I've had a few people like that on here, and they're like, yeah, I've never taken one. I've just done improv. And I'm like, yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's just always fascinating to kind of see where people. A lot of what I like to do on this show as well is just kind of explore like different paths and
Hmm.
the approach to different people take, and because there's no right or wrong. Everybody's kind of making their own way, and it's just interesting to see what's worked for some people and what other people are doing.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's helped with learning how to memorize and learning how to just analyze scripts. Um, but after that, it's just, yeah, figure out how to be you. Figure out how to
Yeah.
be you. That's all. Um, and it's working out for you. I mean, you're on a roll. Um, Now I'd love to pick your brain on something, because you have a unique thing where you have um, some of the best reps in the let's say country, in the world. No, no, no. You had like, no, but you've have a fantastic team around you, um, and I'm just like, it's always fascinating to see like how that develops. I want to say the management came first for you.
Yeah.
Was it? And you've been with them a while then, right? Was that?
Yeah. I think maybe uh like 9 years.
Wow. I see. I
Yeah.
don't think I realized it was that long. I thought it was almost
Yeah. I think it
maybe.
was like 3 years. I mean, it took like 3 years after I moved out here. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there something like a standout thing that made that jump for you to into a management company like that? Was it previous uh things you had booked? Was it your festival stuff that you'd done? Like,
Well, I think that the timing was I lucked out on the timing because I moved here and I had done the thing like I didn't know how to get an agent or manager. I was asking some people I knew, but I didn't know a, a ton of actors that were living out here and working. Um, so I got some book and was like sending out headshots or whatever. You
mhm,
never heard anything at all from that.
right.
um so
But we've all done it. We've all
yes,
we've
I
all
mean
spent
it's like you
hundreds of
got
dollars
and
making
it's
like
like
these printouts and mail. Yeah.
it's like what else are you gonna do? You have to try
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
um so oh, I had made a friend out here who was he had recently moved out here too, and he was starting a comedy show, and so he was getting people to come perform at his stand-up show, and kind of like just his friends or whoever. And I was like, yeah, I can make up a act to do on your show.
Mhm.
And it also happened to be the same time that Chris and I were putting on our Buzz and Diane 1970s show.
Yeah.
And so I did his stand-up show, and he had a manager, and she happened to be at that stand-up show, and she was like, oh, I would love to talk more to you and find out what you're all about. I didn't even know who she was at the time, and I was just like, who is this? Why do they want to get to know? That's like a weird way to put it. Like, I didn't know who it was. Anyways, I found out, whatever. And that same week that she saw me on the show, Chris and I were also doing our show at UCB. So it looked like I had a lot going on.
That's
even
awesome.
though it's like, those might have been the only things I did that year. I can't remember.
Right.
But it was all happening at the same time. And, you know, she saw both of those things and she was like, yeah, well, why don't we like try sending you out and see what happens? And then, you know, I did that. I tested for the Mindy project that year. And so it was like, oh, okay, we'll keep you for now because it seems like you got something.
Yeah.
And then for a while, I wish I had sort of recognized this like earlier, is because, you know, I do write and I do make my own stuff, but I guess I'm not a person who's like always writing something and being like, oh, this is going to be a TV show I'm going to send out and try and sell. I'm just more like writing my own stuff that I'm going to make myself.
Totally. Yep.
And so I wasn't getting a ton of auditions at this time. And my manager was like, well, we want to get you an agent who's going to represent you across the board. So they'll represent you for writing too. Because they dealt with a lot of like comedians mostly who would do that. But that wasn't, and in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do more writing and stuff. That'd be great. But that didn't really happen. So finally at a point they were like, we're just going to get you an agent for acting. And so that probably was like even 3 years after that where I got an agent.
Right. Isn't it funny? Like, I love the pandemic has opened up so many people's minds to where everybody was like, I'm going to write a feature film. And then now we have all the time in the world and people are like, I will never write a feature film.
Yeah, it's hard to.
It's hard. I've written pilots. I've written the half-hour pilots, but never a feature.
I've written lots of features, but they're only like 30 pages long.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Mini features. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now curious, when with this manager, was she a young manager when you met her?
Yeah, I mean, I think she might be the same age as me, or she might be like a year older or something. Yeah.
That's such a great way to go though. I mean, I think growing with young management is such a great way in. And it's funny, like I've had that experience, and I've now talked to several people on here who've had a similar experience of like, yeah, there's young, hungry managers in other, you know, in bigger agents or bigger companies or bigger agencies, depending on, you know, who you're reaching out to. But it's such a great way to go. And I actually had a similar story of like meeting somebody through a stand-up show and, you know, and getting picked up that way and stuff. But yeah, it's fascinating. And the timing was great. Yeah, because you guys had your Buzz and Diane. But you've always been proactive though, and creating your own stuff, which is something I also like to always promote on this podcast, because I think I was like bringing on independent creators because I think that's such a big part of it. And the Buzz and Diane show that you're mentioning was a UCB Spank show, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you guys did 2 more of those afterwards, and many of those got a run where you got to do it several times. Which was awesome. Like, and it's such great exposure that way. And you get to invite management and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you and Chris wrote all 3 of those, right?
Yeah.
And like the third one, Mindy Kaling and her producers and stuff came too. And yeah, it's insane. But then, so you like, what made you guys want to do an on stage, a live show compared to some of the independent film stuff you'd been doing? Like, why? I guess maybe it's, well, you can go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I think that for whatever reason, I mean, we never discussed doing it any other way. Um, I think it just made sense, I guess, for what we wanted to do. Just felt more like, uh, yeah, a little live play, you know?
Totally. I mean,
Um,
I don't know
yeah.
if it would have. I mean, to try to do that on film in any way would have been a bigger budget and costumes. I mean, just
Yeah, it would have just
locations and
been
things like that. So
a bigger
yeah,
production, a whole different feel versus
yeah,
like seeing a live thing.
yeah. Which was, I mean, and it was great. I loved that outlet. I love being a part of it.
Yeah.
Playing a little bartender and stuff. But when Nancy, with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, what a great combination. Uh, and then they came out with the Hardy Boys TV show, and I was like, Chris and Tipper got robbed. um,
Tragedy.
Tragedy. But it's always cool. Like, you're always creating stuff, which is neat. Now, when you talk about writing and doing your own indie stuff, are you on the writing side of that a lot of times, or are you mostly working as an actor with people you know?
I guess it's both. I mean, for me, it's always been hard, like motivating myself to sit down and actually start writing something or working on something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like a couple years ago, I was just like, I have to do something because I just feel, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wasting away, not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make one video a week. That I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself. It's just to like do something,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna do one video a week for like, I don't know what it was, 10 weeks or something like that.
Right.
Um, and that like kind of really helped me in a way, sort of. I don't know, being like, okay, I can do it, and it was fun, and I would just post them online, and like people got a kick out of them or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so then I kind of did that again, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more time instead of being an exercise of trying to do one thing a week. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to make like 10 of these things, but spend a little bit more time with it or whatever, and try some different stuff. Um, and then I guess like, well, a year and a half ago, I was like, okay, I'm making these things at home that are just on my video camera. It's just me doing everything. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, but I feel like I kind of, if I want to go any further with this, I gotta like step it up somehow. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a short film, like legit try and do something that I would be like, this is me and I feel proud of it and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I finally did it and did like a Kickstarter for it, and shot it and had like an actual crew, and somebody else was operating the camera, and made it, and I'm like, okay, like I think in my head, I always think it's like, I can't do it. It's going to be like too hard, or not too
Yeah.
hard even, but just like,
It's a commitment. I mean, it's a big, like, once you get into it, you gotta do it. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's just the thing of being like, oh, and like, oh, who's going to want to even be a part of this? And
Mm-hmm.
like, just all that self-doubt stuff of being like, there's no way I can do this. I'm not good enough, or whatever it
Sure.
is.
Yeah.
But also at the same time being like, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
So, um,
What the one you're talking about
yeah.
is that crude oil, or is that?
No, that was
Okay.
that one I just acted in.
Got it. Yeah.
So this was one that I wrote and directed and acted in,
Yeah.
which
Super cool.
I've just recently finished it, so it's like I'm sending it to festivals or whatever, and it'll be
Yeah.
online at some point. Um,
Nice.
and so, yeah, that really helped just to get me being like, okay, that I want to, what's the next thing I can work on and do, and just
Yeah.
helped motivate me in that. But yeah, also, I mean, my friend Chris, who did Crude Oil, the short you mentioned, he's somebody who's always writing and stuff, so he'll send me like whatever script he's working on,
Yeah.
um, and a lot of times, like probably like half the time, I'll get a part or something just through somebody I know and doesn't even have to do anything with my agent or manager.
Yeah. That's such a big thing,
Yeah.
is just networking, and just like, and not just networking to network, and not just to like show face, but like building out those relationships and stuff with people, I think is important. And yeah, you just never know where that's going to go, and it's
Yeah.
nice that you're not always having to create all of your own stuff, so you can just pop into somebody else's stuff that um
Yeah.
because it's a lot of work. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, even like the sketch stuff and stuff, that you mentioned, like people don't always realize how many hours go into that stuff. And
Yeah, I mean,
um
the videos that you and Ashley do are like, eh, I
it,
mean, that must take
it
a ton of
it's
time. I don't
it's
think
several
people
up.
think, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think people think about it when you're shooting it and it's like, oh, it's this 2 minute sketch video. But I mean, I think it's obvious, at least when I watch them. I'm like,
yeah,
no, they spent a lot of time on this and they probably took hours to do this 2 minute thing. Yeah.
yeah, totally. And then like this past year we started dabbling with like special effects, and people were like, more of that. And I'm like, that takes so much longer.
Oh my
I
God.
have to like learn how to do the special effect, and then oh my god, it's like 8 hours of editing for a 1 minute video. It's like,
Yeah.
it's wild.
But
But shorts are something I've always been interested in. But that, again, that's like a whole nother thing, and it's like, who's
yeah,
who's gonna watch that? And like,
I
like
know.
you just, it's another step.
I think, and I don't know if this is how you feel too. I mean, one thing is also like, well, there's so much waiting time. Like I learned, like, well, I can't just like wait around for like one audition to show up every 3 months or something.
Right.
And I'm like, I just gotta write stuff for myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, because no one else is doing it.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
you never know where some of that stuff's gonna go too.
yeah.
I mean, you look at, some of the stuff that Chad's doing with his group, and the clowning group and stuff, and like their stuff is getting made,
Yeah.
and it's just started. Have you seen his Two Pink Doors
No.
show? And like Cake and all that, like that's all coming out of his clowning group. And
Oh wow.
you should check it out. Two
I'll
Pink
check it
Doors on
out.
Hulu. It's like, it's the tiniest, like, it's, I mean, actually, they have a pretty decent budget, but it's a fascinating little show. But it's just like, yeah, the more you create, you just never know when
Yeah.
it might turn into something. Even if it's just like a digital series or something these days with so many
Mm.
outlets. You just never know. But it's the same thing. I'm like, I can't sit still in between
Yeah.
audition to audition. You never know when that next thing is going to come, and you kind of just have to. You got to stay busy with something. I'd probably lose my mind if I
Oh,
wasn't.
totally. If I didn't, yeah, if I wasn't interested in making stuff or playing music, and it was just like all just about waiting for acting job to come, I mean, I would go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is now this is an interesting thing. Because of, I'd love to pick your brain on this, because I've been talking to a couple other acting buddies too, and like, um, now last I heard, you were working at the Improv. That was years ago now, so I don't know. And obviously, the Improv is closed at this point.
Yeah.
Um, do you like, you have found a level of success and like consistency and recurring roles and things like that? Do you do you still like pick up little things during the downtime to like stay busy, like fun side hustles that you may do to like,
Um,
because everybody wants to think as soon as you book your first job, you're quitting the day job and you're
Right.
out. And like, I have another buddy he's like, I didn't work. He worked for like 8 years straight. And then in 2019, he didn't work once.
Yeah.
And so do you ever find it tricky trying to balance that of like, I'm doing really well, I want to never work again, but like, I only want to do this, but also just finding maybe fun gigs to like keep you busy in the downtime?
Well, I mean, so I only quit the improv about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So at that, I mean, because it was always like one of my big goals was like not to have a day job anymore.
Right. I think
Which
that's everybody's goal is like, I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work.
Well, unless you have like a job you love, a day job that you love.
Which, yeah.
And so, but this is the thing. I wish somebody had told me this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I didn't think of it. Is I didn't know as an actor, after an acting job's done, that you can get unemployment.
Right. Yep.
So I didn't know that. I think only just because like acting seemed different than a regular job, so I didn't think it would work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so because when I was on the Mindy project in the guest book, I still had my job at the improv.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't, I would take maybe like 2 weeks off at a time or whatever, and they were cool with that, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be funny because I remember somebody who was a writer on the Mindy project who's also a comic, came in to perform, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, the Mindy project is going to be over in 2 weeks.
Right.
And I have nothing after that.
Yeah.
I remember even somebody like coming up I worked in the box office, and like a fan of the show came up and they were like, "Oh my gosh, why are you here?" And her boyfriend was like, nudged her like, maybe don't say that. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yep. I mean, like, that's kind of the reality of it, though, is that, and so many working actors, still, I mean, there's still time in between gigs and stuff that, like, I know there's people doing like photography on the side, and, they're doing headshots they have like a side business of sorts. Whether it is, there's always like another side hustle with a lot of it until you really like, finding consistent work where you're always working. It seems like, and I don't think I ever realized that concept until more recently of like, oh, just because I like booked something doesn't mean I'm done. Like I got to keep finding, you might be able to do more fun gigs for less money or something, takes a little bit of pressure off, but until you're really working super consistently, you're going to have some kind of side gig.
Yeah. And so when I found out about the unemployment thing option, I was like, well, okay, I would say that I've booked at this time, I was like, I've booked at least 2 things a year for the last 3 years. And between that and unemployment, I could probably leave the job and be okay.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. I'd worked there for 7 years. And I'm like, I'm going to try it. And so it's been okay so far. But now I'm like, I don't know how this year is going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, same with last year. We shot the 911 episode in the pandemic, but, and I had one other thing in February of that year, but that was it for the whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, still, two things in a year is like, But just like, there's probably a lot of people who are like 2, and it's like, no, that's a good, that's a good year. And these are network shows.
It was definitely a good year.
Yeah.
2's good. 2's very good.
Right. I'm just putting it out there for other people who may be like, you worked twice, and you're like, yeah, that's a good year. That's a
of course I want more.
That's a good year. That's a good year. That's funny. Have you broken into the commercial world? I know we have like the same commercial rep, but I
Oh
don't.
yeah, I forgot we do.
Yeah,
Gosh,
we just
no,
haven't
I
had our
got.
we haven't had our holiday party in no, our
I've
COVID
only
holiday party. You know.
I've only done one commercial, and it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Same with I I have a voiceover agent, and I get sent a lot of auditions, but I've booked only the very first audition I went on, I booked like this was also like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Was that
Um,
Adventure Time? Was that?
no, see, I had a friend who worked on that show,
Oh my gosh, how awesome!
and so I got to do that twice from a friend, and then I got to do another like Netflix animation thing through another friend.
Look at that! Oh my God, it's all
But
about
but
networking, guys.
I
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like um otherwise I haven't. I'm like they're gonna drop me. I haven't booked. How do I get a gig?
You're right. You're right. Totally. Um, that's funny. So are you doing? But you have a voiceover agent now, sending you out
Yeah.
for that. Yeah. Which I thought because I thought that like that was going to be the thing during the pandemic. And I saw like some voiceover commercials opportunities coming through our agent and stuff, and like I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be like the thing of the year, and then it like
Right.
dropped off immediately, and people are like figured out how to shoot in person again and
Oh,
just
right.
do it COVID friendly, and I feel like voiceover stuff dipped away for a little bit, at least in like in that commercial sense or whatever. But
Yeah, most of the stuff I get sent is like for video game or animation,
yeah, super
which I
cool.
don't think they haven't had to like stop because it's all
Yeah,
they don't have to shoot in person.
I thought everything was going to be animated in 2021.
Right.
I was like, there's no way they're going to film. Everything's going to be animation. I'm going to learn to draw. No, no,
Yeah.
I didn't go that far, but I did pick up, uh, stuff like this, like, just, more voiceover stuff that I'd always wanted to do, which
Yeah.
kind of gave me more of a reason to jump in and do it. But yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I mean, you got to find ways to just keep putting as many feelers out in different directions, though, to
Mhm.
just to like try to keep those jobs coming in. Um, but that's cool. That's always fun too. Do you like have you so you said you've gotten to work in VO yet, or you more
Um,
just started recently going for that
no, I
stuff?
mean, I did one commercial like 10 years ago,
Yeah,
a radio commercial for the Georgia lottery.
that is so funny. Can I tell you that's like real quick? That's
Yeah.
because when we were in Georgia, this
Yeah.
is and people in Georgia might hate to hear this, but it's the truth. It's like when we were there and we were trying to decide like, man, should we stay out here or should we go back to LA? Because I think in our minds it was always like kind of a temporary move of like, let's test it out, let's see how it
Mhm.
is. Let's move closer to where I'm from and stuff for a little bit. We got to audition, we got to do a lot of stuff that was really great. But I'll never forget that like seeing that somebody for the Georgia lottery, maybe it was you, was booked from Los Angeles, and we were like, what's the
Yeah.
point? Like, if you're not
Well,
booking your own state lottery out of your state, what are we doing here? That might have been the straw that broke the camel's back of like, we don't have to be here. We can go to LA and still book Georgia lottery.
oh
So
man. I mean, uh when I this what I don't know if you were still there or not, because this was well 2 years ago. My
oh,
friend was shooting a pilot for Adult Swim that
mhm,
shot in Georgia,
mm,
and me and two other people from LA and one
oh,
from I think four of us
yeah,
went to Georgia to shoot it.
yeah. I mean, I can't tell you
Did
how
you did
many.
you know it? Did you notice a difference? Were you getting to go out on more stuff, or was there not?
I went out a ton. I went out
Yeah.
and I was going out more there than I had ever gone out in LA at that
Oh
time.
wow.
I'm starting to go out more and more here now, but at the time, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting out theatrically. I was getting out commercially and was starting to catch some rhythm doing that, but I really wasn't getting out theatrically, and which was part of the move. of like, hey, let's see if we can, dive into the smaller market, get, work and get some credits and stuff. And yeah, we got to audition a lot and stuff, but I just noticed more and more. And I think it was changing as we were there, where a lot of things that were getting booked out of Atlanta were starting to go back to LA and New York actors, just based on the training and experience that people are getting in those bigger markets. It was starting to make a shift again, and we were like, well, this is probably, we're just getting a lot of signs that was the time to go back. And also, the longer we were gone, the more connections we start to dissipate out here. And so it was kind of just the right time for us to move back and be able to pick up where we left off a little easier. But it was, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I saw, tons of friends booking from LA
for
Georgia projects and flying out and being like, hey, can we stay with you guys? We booked something. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they're booking tons of stuff out there. It's it's a great market for what it is, but I wasn't able to audition for stuff in LA from Atlanta, but I can audition from here for Atlanta stuff.
Oh, wow. I mean? Yeah.
Just realizing some of those things was kind of the tipping point of like, this is fun, but I think LA is the place we need to be.
Yeah.
So, so we're happy to be back. Everybody's got their own choice and their own path. And I loved our time there, but we are happy to be back in LA and, reconnecting with people like this. So, and even, during the pandemic, this has been an awesome opportunity to reconnect with people, that haven't been able to see in a while, and kind of see what everybody's up to and celebrate everybody's success and stuff.
Yeah.
I think this has been super cool. It's been fun to watch. Like, you guys, you and, some other friends and stuff, like, have been really staying busy through the pandemic. And I think that's been inspiring and motivating for a lot of people. Cause I think there was a time, especially in the beginning, where you start to feel like, well, everything's shut down. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And then you see people starting to work, and you're like, oh, okay, let's, buckle down. Let's do this, but it's cool to see some people thriving through it. So it's very cool.
Yeah. Trying to.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, like I was saying, like, I always see how you guys are making those videos, and to me, I'm like, oh, they're just like so consistent at like putting out these videos, and like, yeah, I always think that's something. I'm like, yeah, I just gotta remember, just like keep doing your own stuff and like
gotta stay
making
moving.
stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And again, like you said, it's easier than ever, to just pick up a camera and start shooting, and without having to have a whole crew and stuff. And I think, you just kind of do what you can right now and keep moving and have fun and keep the wheels turning. But but it's been awesome. It's been awesome following everybody's success and yours in particular. And it's been fun to be able to have some downtime to be able to catch up on some of the projects that I had missed along the way, and being like, oh yeah, this is awesome to see. So yeah, and I thank you for coming on and catching up and sharing your story with everybody.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's fun talking with you.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll do it again soon. Until then, we'll keep a lookout for the next project. But everybody can check out now your Instagram is just at Tipper Newton, right?
That's all. Yeah, that's it.
All.
You got.
And I'll put it down in the bottom, but that way people can like check out some of your work. Like I said, like Mindy Project, Guest Book, 911, Lone Star, because there's 2 of them.
Right.
And among many other, just so many fun roles and stuff. But definitely check her stuff out, and we look forward to seeing what's next, and hopefully getting to all catch up and maybe do some shows again at some point whenever this all goes away. Looking forward to that. So thank you, Tipper, and we will talk to you again soon.
Talk soon. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in to A Bit Unraveled. I'm Ryan Hansinger. We'll see you next week.